It is Sunday, March 14th, and this is the iPhoneography Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the iPhoneography Podcast. This is a special date of recording. So my regular co-host, Dave Podner, cannot be with us, but I have lined up a wonderful guest from way over on the other side of the planet, from right near Victoria, Australia, Mr. Shayne Mostyn. How you doing?
G'day, Greg. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I discovered you on YouTube a couple of months ago, and immediately subscribed to your channel. And so, does that make me a bloody legend?
Absolutely it does.
Right on. And what really caught my attention was, so I've got the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and I was looking at reviews and all this stuff about that phone and everything else, and you were doing some really cool stuff with astrophotography. That was something that I tried to do with my XS Max and completely failed. Obviously, it doesn't have night mode and things like that. But
right,
kind of give us a little idea of what you've been up to with the astrophotography.
So, look, the channel has been going for roughly 12 months now, and we're sitting around 19,000 subscribers. It started with the pandemic and not being able to get out and do things that I was doing in my regular sort of workshops that I was doing in person. And I do a lot of astrophotography with DSLR cameras anyway. So I kind of merged the two things that I was doing, that is astrophotography with cameras and iPhone photography workshops, and I combined the two of those. So I thought we'll start a channel, and where I am, I'm pretty lucky that I've got nice clear skies with no light pollution. So when the iPhone 11 Pro came out and it had the night mode, it was pretty incredible. I could just go out there and handheld for 10 seconds and take photos and see the stars. I was blown away by that. And that video went really well, and it kind of just escalated from there.
Yeah, that's cool. I have to travel probably a half an hour away from the little city that I live in to really get rid of any light pollution. And I haven't tried anything like that yet. I'm going to wait till it warms up a little bit. We're just coming into spring, so but I'm really just itching to try that out. I'm going to go full on with the tripod, 30 seconds, the whole 9 yards, and try some different things, because I want to get that Milky Way. And you've been able to capture that Milky Way really nicely, and you've actually been doing some comparison stuff with the Samsung S21 Ultra, which is pretty impressive, I must say.
Yeah, I started doing in the YouTube space. It's all about analytics and keywords and things like that. And I was looking for different videos to shoot, and the S21 was starting to trend, and I thought, well, I wonder how it's going to go with astrophotography, and I went and got one. And in the main thing that makes it different is that it's manual. You can shoot this thing just like a DSLR. It's pretty impressive what it can do. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, do you find the larger sensor, I won't say larger, but I'll say a lot more megapixels, do you find that makes a difference?
You're referring to the 108 megapixels, I'm assuming. It's that only works on this camera on the S21 in really good light, as in during the day. It'll work with 108 megapixels at a 4:3 ratio or 3:4 ratio. And it'll actually, when you're using the camera in automatic mode, it actually pops up with a little icon at the top left-hand corner to say that you can shoot 108 megapixel. At night, it just doesn't do that. What that sensor does, though, instead of being 108 megapixel, it does this pixel binning, they call it, where it combines the pixels, and it ends up being the pixel size is what really matters for astrophotography. I talk in a couple of videos about a bucket, and the size of the bucket is how much water it can catch. In the sense of a camera, it's how much light it can catch. and that's all important for astrophotography. So the size of the pixel is more relevant than the number of megapixels.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, cool. So with the pixel binning that it does, it turns the size of the pixel itself into something that's larger than what the iPhone 12 Pro Max is, which is quite impressive.
That's interesting. I've been watching your videos, and you may have. I've heard you mention pixel binning, but I really didn't know exactly what it meant. So that is very interesting. And quite clever too, actually.
Yeah, I believe that Huawei, I can never pronounce that one properly.
Yeah. Huawei.
I'm horrible with pronouncing these things. But they've been doing it, I think, for a little while as well. There's a few different camera manufacturers who have done it with the smaller sensors. But to bring it to a phone, on a phone that's pretty well one of the two main brands that are out there is quite cool. I think when you're comparing these two phones, though, the S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max, they're the flagships, as much as I don't like that term, but they're the bee's knees of these two manufacturers. If the main thing that makes them different, from my point of view, for the astrophotography point of view, is the lack of manual control on their iPhone, and that's the killer when it comes to astrophotography for that phone. It does a good job, don't get me wrong, but with the hardware that it's got on board, it could be doing just so much better than what it does out of the box. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, part of that limitation. Now, okay, I was on Tiny Shutter before I started this podcast, and Mark Sadowski, one of the co-founders of Tiny Shutter, he still continues that podcast, but on a very limited schedule compared to this one. But he had one of the developers of Halide on his program.
Yep.
And they talked about the limitations of the iPhone with regards to long exposure. And the reason, now if I remember correctly, Ben said that the reason the iPhone could only do a 1 second exposure is because it heats up too much. When trying, the hardware heats up too much when trying to, like if it was going to try to stay open longer. I would have to go back and listen to his explanation again, but it was a very, like it made a lot of sense as to why, that Apple puts the limit of 1 second on their devices. And if we could do a native 30-second exposure on the iPhone, that would be incredible. And adjust the ISO. Yeah. Basically you're setting up. It would be nice to be able to set it up just like a DSLR, and I can just imagine what the results could be like. But everybody knows that computational stuff, the night mode and all that stuff, it's just, stacking images on top of each other and, doing all that magic stuff in the background and coming up with an image. But now you've also done some stuff with the Pixel 4a, is it?
Correct, the 4a 5G.
Yeah, now that takes 4 minutes to do a proper Milky Way shot, is that right?
It can take up to that. So it can take up to 4 minutes and 6 seconds. The way that it works is the way that most people who do astrophotography that say, let's just say that you sell prints of astrophotography. When you print astrophotography images from a DSLR, they're generally quite grainy, as in the noise isn't really eliminated. It's almost broadcasted when you print something. So what we generally do is stack those images in a stacking program. It used to be done in Photoshop. So what you would do is you'd go to a site, you would take your photo, and then you might take another 8 to 10 photos, bring them in and stack them manually so they all line up, and then reduce the noise that way. So all you're seeing in the sky on the photo is the stars. Now what the Pixel does is exactly that in the camera, in the phone. So it takes, for a 4 minute and 6 second photo, what seems to be a photo, it's taking 15, 16 second photos, or the other way around, I can't recall. And it stacks them stacks them automatically, lines up the stars and stacks them and reduces the noise. And that's really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to be able to line them up, even because the stars they're over a 4-minute exposure. Those stars would typically in a DSLR leave a light trail.
Absolutely, yeah. So with DSLR with any sort of astrophotography, there's a rule called the rule of 500, and that's the focal length, or 500 divided by the focal length of the lens that you're using. So for the DSLR that I use, it's about 28 seconds. So I will just shoot that on bulb mode and release the shutter at 20, or close the shutter again at 28 seconds. Mm-hmm. Now these cameras on the phones are roughly the same. So 30 seconds will almost always give you light trails. I even get light trails on the S21 when I shoot 30 seconds. It doesn't give you an option to go incrementally between 15 seconds and 30 seconds. That's a bit of a downside, I guess, of that particular camera. But in saying that, it catches the light incredibly well. Now, the Pixel, though, it takes 15 seconds, so you get no star trails. And then it just takes multiples of those 15 or 16 seconds and just stacks them and lines them all up so that the stars are nice and bright. The biggest bonus of that is that once that photo is done, it's like it's already edited for you. There's virtually no noise. When I bring that photo into Lightroom on the computer, there's virtually no digital noise in there at all. For an astrophotography photo, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'll say. And so, when you compared, say, I know when you do these Milky Way shots, say, and you're trying to compare them from one phone to the other, are you okay? So, which one? Let's go back to between the iPhone and the S21 Ultra, because we know that the Pixel does a really good job cutting down the noise. But how about the other two? Like which one would you say does a better job of, minimizing the noise?
They're very different, the way that they work. The S21 is more of a traditional DSLR sort of control about it. And the noise that you get in that from the resulting image is full of digital noise like a regular DSLR image. And you can handle that and deal with that in Lightroom just like you would with a regular DSLR. So you can eliminate that noise. I won't say eliminate. You can reduce that noise fairly well just using the noise slider in Lightroom and adjusting it from there. The iPhone is very different in the way that it works. It's when I started doing this, I quickly realized that the iPhone wasn't designed for astrophotography. What I do on my channel, I push this thing pretty hard to capture the stars that we do. It's the way that it stacks the images as well. So the iPhone takes between 1 and 3 second exposures. So I see that because when you put that into Lightroom and look at the metadata on a night photo that's on a night mode photo that's 30 seconds long, the metadata on different photos, it'll say anything from 1, 2, or 3 seconds. And what it does is it stacks it. So it takes multiple images over that 30 seconds and it stacks those images. But it doesn't stack them aligning them. It stacks them for exposure, just like a HDR image. So for bright, mid, and shadow. So for the lights, the highlights, the blacks in the center, in the middle. And it stacks it that way. And the computational photography in the way that it does this, it gives you a little bit of noise, but it gives you more like chromatic artifacts on it. So there's like these little out of focus kind of shapes that are not there. They're just a result of this thing stacking it. And that was a problem with the iPhone 11 Pro, the iPhone 12 Pro, iPhone 12 Pro Max, all the way up until they said, here's Pro RAW. And that was a game changer. It doesn't do it nearly as bad with Pro RAW. And you can deal with Pro RAW images just in a very, very similar way to what you deal with the S21. And in the difference between the two is that I think that the S21 brings more detail, especially in the galactic core. The iPhone 12 Pro Max before Pro Raw was good. It wasn't great, but with Pro Raw, that's been a bit of a game changer. That's putting up there not quite as good as the S21, but it's certainly a much better photo than what it was taking before Pro Raw.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying Pro Raw, in any condition really, and like you say, it is a game changer. Now I don't have Photoshop or Lightroom, so I've been using Raw Power or even just the Photos app, and I do most of my editing on the phone. Basically, complete mobile experience for me. Once in a while, I'll do something on my MacBook Pro, but with Pro Raw, it's using that local tone map. You can basically adjust just how much of the Pro Raw experience you want to have in the file, and it's just so sweet to work with. So the iPhone 12 Pro is the Pro or the Pro Max that you usually carry?
The Max, Pro Max.
Max, yeah, same here. Okay, so that's your daily driver?
I kind of swap and change between the two. Just go back on what you said there with the all on the phone experience. Snapseed will also edit Pro Raw images for you on your phone.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because you have some really cool sets of like presets.
Oh yeah, sure.
Put together.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, by all means, plug those because it's worth it, and I'm gonna start checking some of them out.
The presets are there. For those who don't know what presets are, it's basically a one-touch edit for your image, and they're never a one-touch fire and forget sort of solution. It's a one-touch to get you into the ballpark, and then you need to adjust some minor things to finish off the image. But it certainly gets you to a look, if you like, a lot quicker. But with and I do a lot of Snapseed stuff on my channel. The Pro Raw from the iPhone 12 Pros, Snapseed actually has a raw edit feature before you go in and start doing editing on the photo. So it's Snapseed's an incredibly powerful tool. I put it up there with Lightroom. There's only a couple of things on Lightroom that exist that don't exist on Snapseed very well, and I use them. I won't say rarely, but intermittently, let's say. I put them onto my computer into Lightroom mainly for the channel, so that it's a larger viewing platform than what the phone would be for people who are watching what I'm doing. So look, Snapseed's a great tool, and you can use it for Pro Raw.
Yeah. Whenever somebody asks me, if they want to get into editing, one of the first things I do tell them is Snapseed because it's free, and it's probably the most powerful free editing app out there. It does it all, and admittedly, I don't use it a ton, but I do go to it when there's a specific feature that I need, and so like I say, I want to try some of these presets out that you have. Now they are on your website, correct?
Yeah, they're on the website at phonephotoschool.com.au. They're $5 Australian. They're cheap as chips. They're just a way. They're presets that I've made for myself to use myself, and then I listened to a podcast of a YouTube creators podcast, and somebody was saying about presets, and you should sell them to make some money to help support doing what you do. So I did that, and they're, like I say, they're $5 for a pack, and a pack is either 5 or 10 presets depending on which one you buy. It's cheap as, and you're getting a good experience from it. The channel with going, because I support all this myself. There's only a few products that I have that on my channel that the vendors have sent to me and said, hey, can you run this on your channel? That happens rarely. The rest of this is wholly and solely financed by me. So going and buying a $2,000 phone just so I can do some videos, I've got to make some dollars.
Yeah, I hear you, because I basically, fund this podcast on my own too,
Yeah.
with the website and all that stuff. So, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
So what other kinds of things do you shoot besides astrophotography?
I shoot everything, mate. I really enjoyed photography. So, in the professional stuff that I do with photography, I shoot weddings and corporate work and deb balls, which are, I'm not sure how to explain those, but they're kind of like a graduation ceremony sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
And family photos and stuff like that. And besides the corporate work, every other photo session that I do with my professional work, I will almost always pull my phone out as well and take some photos. Almost always. And that's for the customer to say it's a wedding photo shoot, for example. Quite often these days, people won't let guests take photos at ceremonies and stuff, especially. So I will take photos with my cameras, and I'll also take a couple with my phone real quick, and then they'll have those photos to use on social media and stuff immediately. And the quality of the photo that comes out of, say, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, in good lighting and stuff in the middle of the day, honestly, unless you were printing it onto the size, something, A1 size, you wouldn't know it wasn't out of a proper camera. It's pretty impressive, yeah. So it used to be with photography, with phones, I used to say to people, this is before I was starting to take photos with phones. I'm talking about like iPhone 3 and stuff, 3S, I think it was called.
3GS?
Yeah, 3GS, that's right, yeah. That's some memories. So I would, and I was working in the print industry then. So you'd pull the back off a big photocopier or something and see all these wires and cables going everywhere, and you think, I'm about to pull this apart, and I wouldn't know how it was going to go back together. So I would just take a photo of it with my phone, and that was a reference for me for later. And that's all I ever considered phone photography to be, just something as simple as that, a reminder sort of thing. And as the technology got better and better and better, I go away now. So I do a lot of motorcycle riding, and I'll go away camping or go on week-long trips and stuff. And I used to pack all of my photography gear onto the bike and go away and take all these photos. Now I take a little Joby tripod and my phone, and that's it. I take nothing else.
Yep. Yeah, it's incredible how far they've come.
Yeah. And they print really well. I've recently, 4 days ago, I sent off a heap of images to get printed. Because I live very remotely, I can't just rock down to my local camera printing place. I don't have one. Mm-hmm. So I send all the printing that I do, I send it off to Brisbane, which is, I don't know, it's probably 1,800 kilometres away, and then it comes to me via courier. And so I've sent off different scales, different sizes of printing from the iPhone and the S21, and I've even sent off for a couple of posters. And
wow!
I've printed from the iPhone X, and I've printed those of A2 size on posters and sold them as well. So this is when I was selling a lot of prints and stuff, and at different exhibitions and so forth. But they print pretty well. I've been happy with what they do. Like it's just come so far. I do plenty of stuff during the day. It's just that the channel, the YouTube channel, is just all about low light photography. So that's where I kind of spend my time.
Yeah, and this is a good time to be doing that with the capabilities of these things that they like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you likely wouldn't be able to do that kind of content. Maybe not as much or not as well.
Yeah, it's certainly out of the box. So one of the earlier videos that I did was it was a comparison video between the iPhone 11 Pro and a Samsung S8, I think it was. So it was a couple of years old, that phone, but the sensor size was the same. And it took a fantastic astro photo. I got the galactic core and everything in this photo from this phone that was a few years old. Oh, wow. And that's because it could shoot manually. That was the main thing. Really pushing the sensor when you can do that. Most people don't do that unless you're doing the sort of stuff that we do on the channel. But with I went and dug out my old iPhone X to see how it was going to shoot at night, and it just didn't do it. And anybody who's trying to do this with a phone that's prior to the iPhone 11 Pro, it doesn't have night mode. You just go and download that app called Nightcap app, and it's a fantastic app. You can go and shoot the same sort of stuff that I'm shooting on iPhone 11 Pro, iPhone 12 Pro in night mode, and you can do it with an app that costs like $4, I think it is. You can do some amazing things with that app on older phones. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the thing. I always try to preach that apps are cheap. You know, for the cost of a cup of coffee somewhere, you can have an app that can do all this kind of stuff, and it it supports the developers and keeps them going. So, yeah. So, before you got into the night stuff, were you well, like I say, I guess you were using it for kind of a sidekick on weddings and stuff like that. How's the landscape down there? Is there much for landscape photography where you are?
Not really.
Is it pretty flat?
Really. It's a billiard table.
Really?
So there's where I live. It's a double-edged sword, if you like. We live so far from anything that there's virtually no light pollution. Shouldn't say most of it, but probably half of the videos that I shoot with the galactic core, the astrophotography, I shoot from my backyard.
Wow.
I'm very lucky in that regard. The downside of all of that is that there's virtually no landscape, like mountains and things like that we have here. I go out to a place called Mount Hope in a lot of my videos. It's about a 20-minute drive from where I am, and I'd go out there mainly because it's just got a little bit more feature about it. It's not a mountain at all. We just call it Mount Hope. It's probably only 30 meters, 40 meters tall. It's not big. But you can see it from such a long way away because it's so flat. So you can get up on top of that and take some fantastic photos, or you can go down the bottom of that and take some really good silhouetted Milky Way sort of photos and sunset photos and things like that. So that's pretty much the main feature of landscape that we have around here. So the photography that I do isn't just about stars and the ground. I tend to chase a lot of vehicles and stuff. So old tractors with the Milky Way, even new tractors with the Milky Way. I've done some sports cars and stuff, and we'll shoot some videos on that for the YouTube channel soon enough. Different sports cars that are around here and motorcycles, and it's all and the technique around all of that is the light painting aspect of the low light photography. So I think well, to go back to your question, I certainly do other sorts of photography with the phone. Before COVID kicked off and everyone had to get locked away sort of thing for us in Victoria. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but we had a lockdown that lasted a long time, longest in the world apparently. And from where that was for Melbourne, and Melbourne's about 3 hours away, but it's in the same state as what we are, and we all got tarred with the same brush, if you like. We're all in the same bucket. And where I am, we're so isolated. We didn't have. Well, we've still to this day we've not had a single case where in our town, but we still all got locked down. We weren't allowed to do things, And before this happened, I was running iPhone photography workshops in person with small groups in our town, pretty often, at least twice a month, I would say. And we would do some storytelling photography with iPhones because everyone's got phone cameras. So storytelling sort of stuff, trick photography with like panoramas and pano runs and multiple people in the photo, multiple single individuals in the photo. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about there. You have one person in the photo and they run behind you, and as you turn around, they run behind you again, and that same person can be in that same panorama photo like 4 or 5 times. Oh yeah, so some cool, fun things like that. And so we were doing that quite regularly. And and then, well, it's pretty much hit the wall with the lockdown, which is why I started the channel. But certainly a lot of animals, vehicles, landscape stuff. Where I am here, we do a lot of what's called flood irrigation. So the Murray River is not far from where I am, and the Murray River is the main river one of the main rivers in Australia, where it's a border between New South Wales and Victoria. And off that comes basically irrigation for farming. And the way that we do it, we don't use sprinklers and stuff. We laser grade all the paddocks so they're very, very flat, with like a 1 inch, maybe 2 inches taller at one end of the paddock than the other. So you flood that and the water just goes across it. And while that's happening, and that could take all day to do a paddock, but while that's happening, the water is silky smooth and you've got these massive areas of awesome reflections and stuff. So we take advantage of whatever you've got around. Yeah.
So there's a picture on your website of a cat. Is that how you did that one?
That's a puddle.
Oh, that was a puddle. Okay.
That was just a puddle. Yeah. That's the orange cat, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That actually was one of those, what I said to you earlier about the posters and selling the posters that was one of those, that cat, she was on one of those posters, and somebody purchased that. But that was just a morning that we got up and we went to walk the animals in the morning, and she was out there having a drink from that puddle. She's an outdoor cat, that one. And I'll just turn the phone upside down, get nice and close to the water and shoot the reflection shot. That's one of my favorite sort of photos to take, those reflection shots. Every morning if I get up and it's rained overnight, I just start looking for puddles. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a good tip, kids. Turn the phone upside down to get nice and low.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, I shoot almost everything I shoot, handheld, I shoot almost everything is upside down.
Really?
Just to get that low. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a smart camera. It's a smartphone. It knows which way is up, really. And
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, that's right. Well, I've done that a couple of times with.
Yep.
I was out walking my dog one time, and there was these daisies, little, and they were very small daisies, and so and I wanted to get them with the sun, shooting into the sun, but the daisies would block the sun, and so I would turn the phone upside down, put it right down to the ground, and get those shots, and that was a lot of fun. But so wow, so what's next for the channel? Anything interesting coming up?
There is actually. I've got. I'm testing it right now. So we were talking before about Photoshop and like Snapseed and things like that. And there's something that I've always done with Photoshop is with the night landscapes that I do with the proper camera, it can be 15, 20 photos to make that one photo, and it's all about light painting a subject. So let's paint the picture, if you like. We're out at night and we've got a tractor, an old tractor sitting in a paddock, and I'll compose that photo with the galactic core using photo pills. I'm not sure if you're familiar with photo pills.
Yep.
I use it on pretty much every photo I take. I use it to plan the photo. So I'll compose the photo, know where I've got to set up the phone or the camera, and I'll take a series of photos of just the sky, and we'll stack that image in the sky. But you don't have to. You can just take the single image of the sky, and you don't move the camera, and then take another photo, like bring down the shutter speed, bring down the ISO, and go and take another photo and shine light onto that subject from a certain angle, and then do it again from another angle and another angle and another angle. So you've got all these different parts of the vehicle lit up. And then traditionally what you will do with those is bring them into Photoshop and mask them, like put layer masks on them and bring them all together into one image, so that in that one image, all that lighting of the subject is all in the one photo, and it looks pretty amazing. What I'm doing right now is doing the same thing with Snapseed, so you can do it all on your phone, with the iPhone. And so far, the testing that I've been doing has been working out pretty well. You can do the double images on Snapseed.
Yep.
You can do that, as far as I can tell so far, as many times as you want. So you can add one photo and then add another one and add another one and another one, and you can achieve the same thing. So far, I've come across a couple of little hurdles. I'm just getting around that at the moment. But if I can do that, that's I use the term game changer a lot with my photography because it's it's there's so many things. We live in a pretty good time for this sort of work, with people developing things so often and something new coming out all the time. But to be able to do multiple image stacking on a phone with different exposures, that's pretty amazing. So the tests that I've done so far, it's been quite positive. There's a couple little hurdles that I'm getting around at the moment, and I think I've got a way around it. But you'll just have to wait and see that video. But the testing that I've done so far, it's certainly got potential. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Have you heard of the app called Polar?
Polar.
Polarr. It has now. If you've never had, okay, so I've had it for a long time, and I was grandfathered into all the features. One of my friends from Tiny Shutter, Matt Hoffman, uses it almost exclusively, and it has some really nice masking features. Like it uses AI to detect the sky, so you can mask out the sky, or you can mask out the sky or the foreground. It'll pick up vegetation. It'll pick up people. I think there's a lot of different things that it can do in that respect. I wonder if it might be able to do some of the stuff you're talking about, like because you could layer images in it too. Now, how many? I don't know. I don't use it a ton, but I've used it a couple of times, and I've noticed these masking features are pretty impressive.
Yeah, okay. I'm definitely going to check that out. Some of the hurdles that I'm getting across is with the light painting. So with all the photography that I do, I always try and do things on as cheap as I can. It's just one of those things that you can buy. The more gear you buy, that doesn't necessarily make you any better than what your abilities are. So I always try and do things on the cheap as much as possible, which is why I'm trying to do this just on the phone. So if I can I'll definitely look at that Polar and see if it can overcome some of the hurdles. If it can't, well, I'll just try and achieve this stuff on the ground by my actions rather than relying on tech. So I'll definitely check that out, and if it works, well, you may well see it in the video, mate.
Yeah, cool. About a week or so ago, you did a YouTube live, and one of the things that was discussed on there was like moment lenses and things like that. And I sent you a couple of comparison shots. Just to kind of reiterate what I was trying to point out with those was like when I on my 10S Max, it only has the wide and the tele. There's no ultra wide. So I was using the moment wide on the wide angle camera to basically get an ultra wide shot. When I compare the iPhone, let's step back to the 10s Max. Sometimes instead of using the telephoto camera, I would put my moment tele, it's like a 58 millimeter lens, over the wide angle lens, and it would give me almost the equivalent focal length as the telephoto lens in the phone. And the reason I would do that is because the wide camera has on the 10s Max, I think it was an f2 aperture, and the the telephoto, was either a 2.4 or 2.8. So I found the image quality, even shooting through that glass, was a little better using that telephoto lens on the wide angle than it was just using the telephoto camera.
Yep.
You follow me there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So with the 12 Pro Max, this isn't exactly what I sent you, but what I want to test is if the ultra wide can well, actually, no, it was the same. It was the pictures I sent. It was the ultra wide and the wide angle with the moment wide lens.
Correct.
The focal length was a little different, but the shot with the moment lens over the wide camera was brighter, but
definitely. Yep.
the ultra wide shot by itself was a little sharper.
Yep, I would agree, 100%.
Yeah. So it's just really interesting. Like when people want to, when people talk about putting these lenses on these phones, it's kind of a two-edged sword whether you want to do it or not. Honestly, I haven't used my Moment lenses a whole lot since I've had the 12 Pro Max, but the one that I find indispensable is the macro.
Yeah, I get that. It's when people talk about photography in general and different bits of kit and different lenses and stuff. Some of the best photos that, especially for the weddings and things like that, some of my favorite photos, you look at them and you think that's a great photo because of the emotion that's in that photo or the story that's in that photo. Mm. And I don't think anybody really cares too much about how you took that, or what you took it with and what your gear was and what your setup was. Only people who care about that is the other photographers. And I think that what makes a good photographer is the image and the story and the composition that you have, not necessarily the gear. What I'll say to you though is that because I run a photography group here in my town, and I've been doing that for a few years now, where it's almost a community service sort of thing where people come in, I teach them a bit about photography, and we go around, we do exercises and things like that, and they just basically learn how to use their cameras. And there's only been ever one occasion where I've said to somebody, your gear is stopping you from achieving something better. You've outgrown your gear that you've got. And that was a lady who had an old Ricoh point-and-shoot camera, if you can believe it, and we're trying to shoot astrophotography with it, and we just couldn't do it.
Right.
And when it comes to phones, I haven't come across it very much where I say the camera is stopping me from achieving something that I couldn't achieve with just the camera. That's just my personal experience, especially now that we've got ultra wides and telephotos. However, what I would say is that on the Google Pixel phones, they did a software update, and it's probably, I'm going to say maybe 3 months ago, where you you lost the ability to use the ultra wide lenses for astrophotography. You can now only do astrophotography on the Pixel phones with your wide lens, like the regular lens, your number one primary lens. You don't have the primary camera. You don't have the option to do that anywhere else anymore. So to do ultra wide, and you used to be able to do it on the ultra wide lenses on the Pixel, that were sensational photos. They were fantastic photos for astrophotography. And when it comes to adding lenses, it's something that I've been toying with, is that because they've lost that feature, the ability to do it, I'm surprised that the lens manufacturers haven't picked up on this yet, is that, hey, you can still do it, just put one of our lenses on there. To me, that just makes sense. That's a good, there's a need for it and there's a solution for it. So I think there's definitely a place there for lenses, I think, for the external lenses on the phones, especially in that regard there, because they've lost the ability to do it. But for regular sort of photography, for me personally, and I get that people like that, I get that. For me personally, I just haven't felt the need for it yet, with the exception of macro. And macros, it's where it's at. You need that lens to capture some of that. I went and purchased, when I was running those workshops, I went and purchased some, they were just El Cheapo, they were kind of like, those Olo clips. It was kind of a copy of those. And it was a macro lens on it. It was like a little kit thing. It was only like $5 or $10 for a kit of, 5 lenses or something. They weren't anything spectacular. But it opened the world to the people that were on these workshops of macro photography. And that's how I kind of treat all my phone photography. Is it's an entryway into something that could be a lifelong hobby in photography. So with that macro stuff, I was doing something cheap. We were photographing succulent plants like little cactus and stuff like that. And some of those people have gone on to buy proper DSLRs purely for macro photography. They're enjoying it that much. It's a nice little entryway into doing it. Doesn't mean you have to go ahead and push it all that far, but you can stay there with your phone and do it, and you quite happily do that. The same thing with the astrophotography. It's a way for people to know, and I recommend this to people all the time on different Facebook groups on astrophotography groups where people will say, I've got this much money. How much money should I spend on my camera? And I'll always answer with go out and do it with your phone, because it's such a niche sort of photography that are you really going to wake up at 2:00 in the morning and go and take some photos and go back to bed?
Yeah.
Because if you're not, you're wasting thousands of dollars. Go and do it with your phone. Take some images on your phone. Keep doing it. And if you enjoy it, put some dollars down and do it better. It's a nice way to get into that photography. Like I say, it's a hobby for life.
Yeah, it sure is. And I find macro it's like you're in a whole new world. I mean, you could just walk around your house and take macro shots of different things. And I mean, sometimes people won't even know what they are. So it's a lot of fun. And I find it gets me out of, sometimes you get into a creative slump. And whenever I get into that slump, I just throw my macro lens on and just walk around the house. And then an hour later, I've got a whole whack of pictures I can look at and go through. So
that's a perfect solution.
Yeah,
changing out the lens and doing some different photography. So what macro lens do you use?
Moment. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got 5 moment lenses.
Okay.
Or no, 4. I have the wide, the tele, the macro, and the anamorphic.
Oh, okay. Yep. So do you shoot much video then?
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do more video. I'm really liking what I'm seeing with Filmic Pro and what those guys have done with that app and with the Dolby Vision that the iPhone does.
Yes.
Now, mind you, the only place I could watch it right now is on my iPhone, but maybe one day I'll have a television that has Dolby Vision built into it. But but if I do it right and all the things come together in the video, I can put it on YouTube and it'll be broadcast in Dolby Vision. But again, the only way to see it though is with a compatible device to view it. But
yes.
But I do want to do some more video. I do like I'll go to say like a waterfall or something around here, and I'll do a lot of different photos, but I'll do some video, and then I'll put them all together in some kind of a multimedia thing and put it online. So, but it's fun.
Yep. I started doing a little bit of video on the channel, and it's with YouTube. You've really got to niche down to be remotely successful on YouTube. You've got to be a very fine niche, and mine is obviously with phones and photographing the stars. And every time I've gone away from that niche, the channel kind of hurt for it.
Oh, is that right? Eh?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I'll watch my analytics on YouTube, and I'll do a couple of astrophotography videos, and it'll just go crazy, and I'll pick up subs and lots of views, and obviously that turns into dollars. And then when I go away from that, and I think, this iPhone's a fantastic video camera as well, and I shot a video about how to shoot video, and it didn't do well at all.
Wow.
It kind of tanked. Yeah. If you're into video with your phone, there's a few different YouTube channels that do it. There's one fellow that I follow. His video. His name's Steve. His channel is Learn Video Online, and he's a filmmaker, or videographer by trade. But he's very much in the same sort of mindset, might be the right word, in that he does things on the cheap. So he does quite a few videos of how to shoot videos with your phone. And some of his techniques are just, they're awesome. They're just fantastic. I've learned so much off this guy starting my channel. And he does a lot of it, like I say, with like action cameras and with phones. And it's all about the storytelling aspect and different sort of shots that you can shoot with your phone. It's definitely worth checking it out if you're into video.
Yeah, I'll definitely have a look. There's a lady in California, Cielo de la Paz, who does a lot of video stuff too. Last year on Instagram, she put a video a day on, and
wow.
all shot with her iPhone, and I mean that's a pretty tall order, but she stuck with it, and she puts on courses and seminars of how to do video and stuff. As well. So, but I'll check out this Learn Video Online and
he's an English guy.
He's
a Pom. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Well, I think what you alluded to there was somebody who was doing something every day.
Yeah.
Yep. So and that as much as it sounds like this is a throwaway line, that's the best thing that's going to make you a better photographer, regardless of the sort of photography that you do. They say that to become a violinist, like a concert grade violinist or a master of violinist, they say that you need to practice for 10,000 hours. And they say that everything that you do to become a master at it, you need to do 10,000 times. And I say that to everybody that I teach photography to. Go out there and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And by the time you've got to 10,000, you won't even be thinking about what you're doing. You're just going to do it. It's going and doing a photo a day, or in this other person's case, a video every single day. The video that you shoot on day one is going to be vastly inferior to the video that you shoot on day 365. And there's so many different challenges on like Facebook and different Instagram groups and things like that, and they're 365 challenges to challenge everybody to take a photo every single day. And if you commit to doing that, I guarantee it, you will be a better photographer at the end of that time. You just get better as you do more things. You look at things differently. And I'll go away on trips and stuff with motorcycle groups, and we'll pull up for lunch somewhere, and I'll go off and take photos of things, and people are like, how did you even think that was going to be a good photo? It's because you're doing it all the time.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely encourage people to get out there and do it as often as possible. You've got this thing in your pocket, in your phone. You can take photos of everything, any time of the day. Just experiment with it. Find your own creative juices, if you like, and do it every single day. It just makes you a better photographer.
Yeah, I've done those challenges twice, the 365. The first time I did it was in 2012, and lo and behold, it was a leap year, so it turned into a 366. And I took every image that I posted on Instagram, and I formatted them into a poster. So it's like 9 across by however many down, and I've got it hanging on my wall. And it's all 1-inch little thumbnails of all the images I took through that year. And
that's a great idea.
So disclaimer, there is one DSLR shot, and it's a picture of the full moon, and that was when I believe it was Neil Armstrong passed away. And I, as a tribute to Neil Armstrong, I did a shot of the full moon with my Canon. I don't have that anymore, but I'm all mobile now. But but yeah, I did that, and then I think it was maybe 3 years later, I did the whole year in black and white.
Wow, that's cool.
And I always made a point of capturing, editing, and posting the images all in the same day.
Okay. Yep.
Like some people will capture a few images and then, over the next few days post them. But with me, it was capture, edit, and post all in the same day. So it makes it a little more difficult, but, and once you get into it, you think, well, what have I got myself into? But it was an experience that I'll never forget, and probably one I won't do again because it's so time consuming, and I don't know. I just don't know if I can do it again or not, but but it was fun. And like you say, you do become a better photographer by doing that for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Shayne, this has been an absolute joy to speak with you. And, I know your day's just getting started, and mine's kind of just winding down. So, why don't you tell everybody where they could find you online?
So you can get me over there on YouTube, youtube.com/Shayne Mostyn mobile photography, or you can check out the website, phonephotoschool.com.au. Also on Instagram at Shayne Mostyn, and that's pretty much where you'll get me all the time, all those.
Alrighty. And you have an Instagram and Twitter accounts. I'll put links to those in the show notes on the website. And you can find Dave, my regular co-host, who wasn't able to make it today. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram under ProfPod, PROFPOD. And you can find me on Instagram at Macmillan Photo and on Twitter at Macmillan_photo. This podcast, we try to do it every 2 weeks, whenever we can, as long as life doesn't get in the way. And it resides at iphonography.ca. Now, mind you, that's just the name of the website. The actual website is a different name, but that iphonography.ca will get you there. And gosh, I don't know what else to say, Shayne. It's been a pleasure. Don't hang up. We'll continue chatting for a minute here. Sure. And I'm so glad to be able to get talking to you after watching your YouTube channel for a couple of months, and I just can't wait to see what comes up.
Good on you. Thanks, mate.
Alrighty. Cheers.
Bye-bye.